Okay, here we go.
All right. So Professor Dr. Vernon Weiner is a well-known psychologist with UCLA. He's known for developing a form of attribution theory, which seeks to explain the emotional and motivational dynamics concerning academic success and failure. A brief background: there's some Army service. He enrolled at the University of Michigan, mentored by John Atkinson, Professor Atkinson, who's known for pioneering the study of human motivation, achievement, and behavior. The professor has, and correct me if anything is off, professor, but he's published 15 books, many articles, probably hundreds, on the psychology of motivation and emotion. His primary research interests include social cognition, helping pro-social behavior, judgment and decision-making, motivation, goal setting, causal attribution, law and public policy.
You did some homework.
Yeah, we got it all, Professor. Interpersonal processes, emotion, mood, effect. He's a member of the National Academy of Education, received many awards, including most recently the Gold Medal Award for Life Achievement in the Science of Psychology, which is one of the highest honors in psychology and recognizes distinguished careers and enduring contributions to psychology. And according to the page,
I like this. You'll have to send me this tape so I can play it to my family.
Absolutely. We'll send you the link, Professor. But yeah, it's the award the professor is recognized for his prolific and influential contributions to psychological science through the development of an attributional approach to motivation and emotion. The professor examined people's causal explanations of their own and other behavior and showed these to have affective and behavioral consequences on achievement, help giving, stigmatization, and interpersonal transgressions. The conceptual and empirical rigor of his research is widely recognized and continues to inform studies in countless domains. Also, professor is an inspiring mentor to numerous doctoral students, postdoctoral fellows from all around the world who continue to build on the rich legacy of his attributional approach.
Are you reading that or you just talked that?
I mean, I talked it with the assistance of
I see. Okay.
Of notes, but yeah, so it's great to be speaking to you, Professor, and maybe we could talk a little bit about some of your ideas, whether current and or some of your earlier work, and see what we can get into. Sounds good.
It's better if you ask me questions. You have it's hard for me to just pick out stuff, but you're right. I'm an attribution theorist. That means I study causal beliefs. And I started in achievement. So I was really focused on the person, but then I went more toward interpersonal, especially helping, excuse giving where other people are involved. So that's been my kind of trajectory.
Right.
And it's always been fun and interesting, and it's a gold mine field. I was lucky to get into it because you put in your shovel and out comes some nuggets. It's not always true in all the fields you pick. So that was luck. I attribute that to luck.
Yeah, attribution, right? Attributional luck. I mean, maybe we could start. You could maybe give a short description of the attributional approach in psychology. And we could go.
Well, the short description for me is you find an outcome. You try and determine the causes. Those causes have certain properties. That was a major advance for me, realizing that locus of control is a misconception. There's a property called locus. There's a property called control. There's a property called stability. And each of those properties have particular consequences. And so that's what I've studied. And it cuts across any domain because all domains have causes. I mean, I reject you as an interviewer, that has a cause. You fail, it has a cause. I mean, so it makes a difference. You hit me, it has a cause. So it makes a difference what the domain is. And that way I can cut across all domains and study all those kind of different topics that you kind of embarrassingly put on me. Yeah.
No, yeah. No, it's a huge insight that behavior has a cause, right? Because we see that in our more so thoughtless kind of states, we certainly don't see, but we don't even take the additional mental leap to suppose that there is a cause. For example, somebody honks at me on the road. I don't think that maybe the person is late, or they're frustrated, they're aggravated, something's going on in their mind. I just see it as an offense. I just see it as something nasty done to me. And that frees me to react also in an irrational way. When I don't know the cause of something, right? I
That's
can
true. And if you realize that you had strayed into his lane, you may take a very different, oh my God, I wasn't paying attention. And that's my fault. And I'm sorry. So instead of being angry at him, you apologize. So yes, these causes have significance. That happened to me yesterday. I was making a right turn and I was focused on the light. And I almost hit a woman crossing in the pedestrian zone. And she's hollering at me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "You're right. I wasn't focused on you. I was looking at the stoplight." And yeah, so it's obviously very different than if I told her, "What are you doing crossing the street against the light?"
Absolutely right. So basically, if I kind of either due to a lack of thought or due to purposeful ignorance, if I refuse to acknowledge that somebody has a cause for what they do, it almost necessitates that I react in an aggressive way or a hostile way, or I get angry or hateful or something. This because it's natural, right? What's one of the scariest things for kids? For example, it's a clown with a clown mask or just some kind of scary figure, because it's like, what's going on, right? This scary monster is just doing something for no reason. But if we know for a fact that somebody had a cause for their behavior, and further, I think this is a point we should discuss. If we assume that the cause is in itself always positive, right? Then how can we get angry, or how can we hate somebody, and so forth and so on?
You have to be careful. The cause isn't always positive. I mean, you might be an evil person. So I attribute you hit me, and I attribute that to your hostility and aggressiveness, right? And that's in fact objectively not incorrect. How do I know that? You've hit other people too. You've hit people in the past. You've tried to hit me in the past. So I have a lot of information that helps me often in my causal understanding. I have to put that information together.
Right. So, but what would it mean? Let's say we say somebody consistently hits somebody, and the temptation is certainly to say they're an evil person, they're an aggressive person. But if we would go with your theories, Professor, more with the attributional theories, we push and push, and we think ultimately, why does this person continue to behave this way? Wouldn't we be forced to stumble upon a perspective wherein that is the positive thing to do? For example, the person wants power or control, or they themselves were hit as little kids and now they want to project it outwards, whatever
you have
the
to be
case might
careful.
be.
You can't keep going back in the causal chain. You typically stop the chain earlier. That's true in law too. I mean, you shoot somebody, and when I look into your past, you've been abused as a kid, but the law doesn't go back that far. There's a place in the causal chain, in legal systems and human systems, where you stop. And if you hit me, I'm not going to go into your genetics and say, look at the genes this guy have. Of course he's going to hit me. It's not his fault he inherited it. That doesn't cut it.
No, that's a great point, right? But certainly for law, because we have utilitarian considerations, for example, keeping super violent, aggressive people off the streets. Certainly we cannot keep going back and saying, oh, but when they were a child, blah, 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 right, let's let them off. But that's a pragmatic consideration. But as it concerns our own understanding, if we
but
can
even for retribution and not utilitarianism, you still don't go back in the causal chain. You don't have the cognitive capacities. You can't keep doing it. You don't have the information. I don't know, you were abused as a kid. So you often have to look at the intent of the ahistorical immediate intent of the perpetrator.
Yeah, and I agree. Right, we look at for many aspects of whether it is the law or it is like you said, retribution, whatever it might be. We look at the immediate intent. Did this person mean to hit me, or did they mean to reach for something on the shelf and they accidentally?
Exactly.
For sure, right?
Exactly.
And they say, okay, they meant to hit me, so that's one thing. Let's go. right? Or they meant to reach for something on the shelf, and then we can apologize. But I'm saying on a deeper philosophical level, we can clarify to ourselves that there's only one method of action, which is when we find something satisfying, when something speaks to our nature, whether or not this would be interpreted as bad or good by others. And if we kind of clarify this to ourselves, then we can think backwards. How did it happen that such and such person came to think of this negative behavior pattern as positive? Why does this?
You'd
You
be
know what I'm saying?
spending your life in thought.
In a sense, but also it would bring great consolation, and it would bring great consolation and peace also, right? Because if I know no matter what anybody has done or will do or does do, they have the same fundamental nature as me. They intrinsically mean good and want to satisfy themselves just like I do. I that really frees me up. You get
Yeah,
what I'm saying, Professor?
that's a big philosophical jump. I don't make that assumption. I
Right.
don't make that assumption. For all I know, you're going to sell this tape and make $1 million. I don't know
I mean, I would be happy. I would share it with you, but
that.
5% to you, 95 attribution, right? We got to attribute that. Yeah, but I'm saying, right, I'm saying beneath any and all pragmatic considerations, whatever anything, this is logic, I think, right? Like in your theory, there has to be a cause, because the alternative statement to say the person acted without a cause is
Well, you can
preposterous.
that's a little strong. You have to be careful. You can act reflexively.
But even reflexively, what does that
Yeah.
really mean?
Just means your body reacted, so it doesn't have to be the kind of cause we think of, that I meant to hit you, or that's just what my body did. So you have to be a little bit modest about all situations, especially when you start talking about subhuman behavior. So anyway.
Of animals and insects and all that. Yeah, I mean, I think that's incredibly fascinating, because especially, let's say I remember one time walking, right? And there was a branch, and I reacted and ducked even before I realized there was a branch. And then after, I'm like, wow, there's a branch. And I just set my body or reflexes, whatever, just saved my eye from a scratch cornea potentially. Whatever the case might be. But if I think about it, all of this required knowledge. I have to know what are my interests. I don't want to scratch cornea. My eye is right here. This is the branch. So even though we call it reflexive, insofar as it was not conscious in the sense of, oh, I want a coffee today, I want this for breakfast or dinner, I think it certainly required knowledge. And we could probably still say that there was a cause to it.
You have to be careful. I mean, it could be genetically programmed. So my cat runs away when he sees a dog, but it doesn't mean he's saying to himself, God, there's a dog, he's probably going to bite me.
You're right.
He just says, yikes, and he runs.
He says, yikes, but because he's a cat. And that's the amazing thing, right? We see in all these animals and insects this incredible behavior. And yet the only explanation is that there is some cognition of what are my interests, as a butterfly that migrates, or as a bird that migrates.
That's awful strong. Again, this could be genetically built in and automatic. So you have to be, I think you have to be careful anytime you go outside your theoretical boundaries. You have to take care.
Absolutely.
So I like to take care. That's why my research replicates. I don't take chances.
Yeah, no, that's super key, right? To replicate and to be very cautious. But speaking conceptually, still think we can kind of have a broad view of things, and ultimately from a philosophical point of view, when we do see that the behavior of every animal and insect requires knowledge of who am I and what are my interests, I think we could still call it reflexive. It is certainly. I don't think a squirrel thinks, I'm a squirrel and here's a nut and I have to bury it because it's my interest to uncover it. But why?
That's too strong. You're inferring a lot of cognitions that I don't think are possible, but that's irrelevant for attribution theory.
Yeah.
just for you to be careful.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, we have to. Easy to make unwarranted leaps in reasoning.
Yep.
Right. All right. So we talked a little bit about attribution. Three, let's see. What about explaining the emotional and motivational dynamics of academic success and failure? Maybe we could touch upon that.
Yeah, it's the same as any other area. So I fail if I tell myself I'm stupid, I'm dumb. It doesn't have to be academic. Basketball, I can't run, I can't shoot. Tennis or whatever, I'm uncoordinated. Anytime you make that kind of a stable, uncontrollable attribution, you're in trouble because you don't see any chance of success and you drop out. So if I'm in school, I say, well, I got this is too hard for me. I'm dumb. I can also say the school is too difficult. That has some of the same consequences, not as bad because I don't lose self-esteem. Anytime I make that kind of attribution, I decrease motivation. So that's the one you have to be real careful about. And even if it's true, there's other ways you can phrase it. You can script it in other ways that are better. So better to say this school is too difficult for me than to say I'm dumb, because then you can switch schools.
Right.
If you're too dumb, it goes with you.
Right.
It's cross situational. So there's more facilitating attributions and there's debilitating attributions. And lack of effort tends to be facilitating, even if it's you and you lose some esteem because you were lazy, you can change it. So, and it's unstable. You can maintain high expectancy. So that's a facilitating attribution for academic failure. And some other people, Ray Perry, have tried to do attributional change programs, interventions. So attributions get changed to lack of effort, or I didn't study right, I used bad strategy, all of which are changeable. And that has some positive consequences. Again, you have to be modest in what you can expect. So that's academic failure. In academic success, you want to attribute it to yourself. So you can increase your self-esteem. Yeah.
Yeah. No, those are some.
And it doesn't have to be academic. Again, it could be anything. Any achievement context that has success and failure. Golf, tennis, classrooms, jobs. It's all subject to the same kind of attributional analysis. There's
right.
Good attributions and bad attributions.
Right, right. No, those are some excellent points, Professor, as I understand it. So basically, if I fail, I can either say it's because of an intrinsic trait about me that can't be changed. For example, I'm stupid, or I'm athletically ungifted, or I'm just a loser or incapable, or I can make it situational and say the school's too hard or my preparation was wrong, and so forth and so on. Right?
Yeah, those two are different. You say this school is hard, that's stable. It's going to be low expectancy, but it's not you. So in some sense, it's external, but it's stable. So that's different than saying I didn't try hard enough, which is me and unstable. Those are quite different. So again, each attribution has a place on the locus, on the stability, and on the controllability factors that underlie all causes. These are the elements of causes, the properties of causes. And all those properties have different consequences.
Right.
So
right. So stability. Yeah. And then.
So you have to be careful.
Yeah. What do you think is, for say, a student, a good approach here concerning these attributions? Because on the one hand, if I blame or attribute my failure to contingent factors, such as a lack of preparation, I can change that. And that's a positive thing.
It's a good one. Yeah. It's just like lack of effort. It's unstable and it's controllable.
Unstable, right? Because it varies and it's controllable. It's in my hands.
You can vary it. That's different than aptitude than saying I'm dumb or I'm too small or I'm too uncoordinated.
Right, right. And I think finding that balance, because I think we're not going to usually conceive something negative about ourselves unless we get a recompense of vanity for that. For example, many people incorporate into their self-image, I'm very stupid, but there's a catch, but something else, I'm very this. So,
That's true. There's hedonic biases where you tend not to blame yourself. So if you play doubles tennis and you lose, 75% of that is because your partner. You
right,
know?
right.
So there are hedonic biases that come into play. But nonetheless, there's also a minor subset of people who tend to blame themselves. I'm dumb, I'm unattractive, I'm boring. So that's a cross affiliation. And they especially need help. Yeah.
Is there room though for a realistic evaluation? Because as much as we want to believe that everybody can be beautiful and intelligent and successful in business and sports, abilities do vary, right?
Absolutely.
Certainly. So is there room
Absolutely.
for a realistic assessment to
Of
say, you
course,
know,
you have to change your aspiration. It's my aspiration to win a Nobel Prize. I'm in trouble. So I'd be always depressed. I suppose it's my attribution to be a respected faculty member. I can do that. So so you have to be careful in combining and taking into account reality and also hedonic preservations, and be careful about aspirations. So indeed, if the aspiration is too high, there has to be some recognition, or else you're hitting your head against the wall. So some people, for example, some theories say when you fail, you just should persist. No, when you fail, keep failing, it's time to turn to something else. So you have to weigh the reality, and that's a tough issue. Well, have you stopped too short? So I want to date Mary. Mary's very popular. I'm not that attractive. What chance do I have? But in fact, Mary kind of sees something in me that I don't recognize. I'm her height, or I like the same movies she does, and I don't take that into account. I've underaspired because so those are tough
calculations?
boundaries to traverse. You got to know or try to understand when it's not to pull back and when to go forward. What's that saying? God give me the ability to recognize what's uncontrollable, to understand what's controllable, and to know the difference between them.
And the courage, yeah, something like that, to accept what I can't change.
Yeah,
Something
exactly.
yeah, no,
Alcoholics Anonymous, I think. Quote. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, President, that's a great point. And I think what complicates the matter is that we do see that people who are successful encounter a tremendous amount of failure, and yet still most are not successful. So if somebody's aspiring, right, how do they, what's some guidance for their thought processes as it
Right.
concerns the question of determining, am I one of those people that which ought to persevere and show grit and tenacity and fail again and again and again and keep getting back up? Or is this really not for me? Should I really attribute it to myself and say, I'm not cut out for this?
Or to just, it's not myself, as much as this is a very, very difficult task. And it's not my place. So those are difficult. Those are difficult. I mean, typically thing for success, and other people will say this is not me. You have to get up when you're hit. Especially as an academic, for every paper you get accepted, you got another dozen rejected. You've got to live through that. And I think most academics who don't continue research just can't handle the criticisms. So those are difficult lines and difficult decisions, and you have to balance the attributions.
Right.
With some understanding of reality. Yeah.
Right. Constant reality testing balanced with
It's
sufficient efforts. Yeah.
It's tough out there. You gotta.
Absolutely. And I think, Professor, if a person focuses on the kind of person they're going to become through what they're doing and how they're going to be changed, then maybe it's a win-win situation, because let's say that I don't have what it takes to, let's say, be a professional basketball player. I'm not tall enough, whatever I attribute it to. But if I'm focused on my character, right, and on the things I'm going to take away, building discipline, determination, control, consistency, toughness, all these things, then even if I fail to hit the mark, I'm still going to walk away a better person. And
Well,
I'm gonna,
you've changed your goals. So, I mean, you might walk away a better person, but it's only better because you've changed your goals. I want to be a better person rather than a professional basketball player.
right.
So
I've included the
you
goal
have to be
of
careful.
right. I've
You
I've
tell the
included
guy that's cut, you tell the guy that's cut from the Brooklyn Nets, you're a better person. Feel good about
right. It might not cut it, right? It might
it.
not cut it. And part of the problem or part of the issue here, I think, is that we identify or are able to identify so strongly with a given role or a given aspiration or goal of ours that we don't make any separation between it and our own self. And so there's no consolation, right? If I lost, that's it, because I'm not minding my own reality. I'm not self-conscious of my own existence, right? But if I am, then I say, no matter what happens externally, whether I succeed or fail, whether I get cut from the Nets or I make it, whatever, I still remain, and I still have been affected by these experiences. So it is, then it really, I think, genuinely is a consolation, not just then like, hey, I win or I learn, right? I don't lose, I either win or I learn, right? That's kind of a little cop out. That's what people say these days sometimes, but it's a cop out. But if we really are kind of intent on moving in a positive direction as a person, I think it's not necessarily a fake
Again,
consolation,
if
right?
that's what you said is what defines success and failure. So success and failure isn't defined by making the team. It's defined by how I'm shaped. That's a different goal. So you're
It's a
making
different,
attribution. You're making a different attribution for something else. I mean, say you make the Nets, but you find that you become more arrogant. So is that a
right?
failure? Is that a failure? So it depends how you're making an attribution for an outcome. So the question is, what is that outcome? Making the Nets or perceiving yourself as a better person. You have two, and you're gonna have two outcomes and make multiple attributions quite different. I didn't make the Nets because I'm too short, but I became a better person because I tried hard. It's okay. It's
Right.
okay.
Right. No, that's a great point, right? And if we switch the target, it can be self-serving, right? Where we don't try hard enough and we just say, what, I became a better person. Like, we have to give full effort. We have to really compete and try to succeed. But I think we can still be conscious of ourselves as a self and walk
Yeah,
away with lessons learned,
yeah,
no matter what.
sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Professor, you want to talk a little bit more? Or are you getting, how you feeling? You feeling
I got
good?
5 more minutes or so. I
Got a
mean, it's
couple more
kind
minutes.
of fun chit-chatting with you. I'm very
Yeah,
curious.
you do, absolutely. Let's see. You've written a lot about social cognition, helping, judgment and decision making, motivation. I mean, motivation would be a good one. What are some of your thoughts concerning motivation?
We just talked about that.
Yeah, but in the sense of setting a goal, we talked about the different motivations that we, as a matter of fact, can have. Should I make the New York or should the Nets, or should I become a better person? But what our motivations be? What do you think are some values that a person can
Well, that's only
aspire
personal
to?
opinion. That's not attribution theory. So let's stick to attribution theory, causes, because otherwise I'll just talk as a motivational psychologist. I'll probably say some nonsense.
No. There's that reality testing, right? The humility. Yeah. I mean, what do you? It's up to you, Professor. I mean, if you could, want to bring up a few more points.
No, let's go to another topic.
You want to do another one? Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
you have
see.
to do your homework on another topic.
Oh no. Yeah. What about mood?
No,
You want to talk about mood?
no, I can only tell you if you keep blaming yourself with low ability, you'll be in a bad mood. You'll get depressed.
Right. Well, speaking, maybe we can mark on that, right? So yeah. So I think nowadays, I mean, all the time, I'm sure, but especially nowadays, it's very visible with social media, things like that, right? Everybody, if you don't know, most people have social media accounts like Twitter or Instagram, Facebook, things like this. People see other people's lives, right? The kind of a highlight reel, as it's been remarked. The best moments are shared but I live my own life. I know that my life consists out of going to sleep, waking up, feeling
Not
bad.
as good as the other
Not as,
person.
not as good as the other person's, right?
Then you have to make an attribution.
So what kind of attribution should be
Because
made?
that's a failure. You're living a better life than I am. Why? And I might say you're born with a silver spoon, or you're so attractive. It's not me, it's because of you. Or I might say it's because of me. You know, I'm unattractive, I'm too short, I don't have any musical talent. And then you're coming back to the same issue, you know, playing out expectancies and self-esteem, and what I can do and what I can't do, and what I should strive for and what I shouldn't strive for. Yeah, I think you're right about these social media often display other people at their best.
Yeah.
And you're looking at these beautiful women. I'm a girl. You're looking at these beautiful women saying, my God, how am I going to compete with this? You know,
Right.
Jolene, leave my husband alone or something. You know?
Oh yeah, with Dolly, what is it? Jolie.
Yeah. So you know, you're looking at Jolene and her beautiful teeth and her red hair and whatever else.
Especially with Photoshop, right? Assisted
Yeah.
by Photoshop. Right. So one thing, right, and the natural reaction is to become jealous, to become envious, to feel bad. But another thing I think we can do is we can strive to recognize the reality of the other person. They're also a real person just like me. They go through their own struggles.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they're susceptible to the same
You're
faults and follies.
You're such a rationalist, my God.
I mean, it's good though, right? We can't just be what would be the word? Embarrassed. I mean, both.
You probably need more hedonic biasing.
Yeah.
Less rationalism.
Less rational. We got to think though. We got to think. But hey, we can. We think through the situation. The other person is real. They mean good, like we mentioned at the beginning, right? In their own self. And I should be happy for them. And if I can identify with somebody else, I can be happy for them as opposed to feeling bad by comparing myself
telling you,
to them.
you're spending your life in miserable thoughts.
What do you know? Happy thoughts.
Everybody's better, but they really are better. That's cool.
Yeah, but even if somebody's better, if I can identify with you, right? I can take joy and pleasure in you. Like, for example, if I can identify with you, Professor, I can take pleasure in your accomplishments. It doesn't have to be me versus you. But if I don't identify with you, I view you as an other, right? As something other than me, then I'm jealous. I'm like, wow, Professor has more papers or more books, and you know, so it's the same thing. If we see a superstar, we see a model, or we see you know, somebody who's doing good, if we don't identify with them, of course we're going to compete with them, or we're going to feel jealous, we're going to feel bad. But if we do identify them, if we see ourselves in them, we feel good, right? There's other people in the world that are prospering, that are happy.
So I see Kevin Durant and I say, my God, I'm kind of like him.
Well, you are. No, but even whether you as you think you are or not, I think we can also always strive to conceive ourselves in deeper and deeper terms, and ultimately in a way where I am able to see myself in anybody. I think that's the foundation of love and human love and sympathy, right? A mother falls in love with her child right away because she sees herself in the child. It's an extension of me. It's not because she thinks, you know, I am like a baby. The baby and her are different, just like you and Kevin Durant are different. But
this sounds like cognitive nonsense. No, I don't believe any of that.
What?
I don't. But whatever works for you.
It's a question of belief, Professor. A question of, we got to think.
Aye. Oh, anything else on attribution? Because I've got a few more minutes here and my life goes on.
You got to run. You got to attribute.
Actually, I have on Fridays, I play tournament bridge online.
Oh, wow.
It's 12
so how do you, if you fail, if you screw up, what do you attribute it to?
My partner.
To your partner.
Yeah, I said, what the hell are you doing?
It's never your fault.
Never.
Hey, man, you know what you're talking about. I like it.
I attribute it to my old age and my declining cognitive abilities.
I didn't notice any declining cognitive abilities. Sharp as a tack. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess, Professor, I mean, you can maybe just give a summary of, or whatever you want to say about your work and what you want your work to be remembered for. Hopefully you'll be able to comment till 120, for many more decades
Well,
to come. But
when I was a student, my real aspiration after I graduated was when somebody writes a textbook about theories of motivation, I want my name in there somewhere. That's my immortality. It doesn't have to be the first name, it could be the last name. I want to make that contribution, that I'm just not forgotten. And I feel pleased that Attribution has perhaps brought me there.
I think so. I think you're cited many times and referenced many times, and hopefully the work will live on.
I hope so. That's
And people,
striving for immortality.
right? People will be able to hear you, face to face. So that's a good thing too.
Okay, thank you for the interview. I really didn't think it was an interview. I had some, whoop,
Oh, it's
cutting me off.
Yeah. Can you see me?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Right. Well, yeah. So thank you very much. I'll just stop the recording and then we'll chat for a second. But thank you so much. And
thanks a lot, Jeremy. I like
it.
you a lot, and I'm sure you're going to be a successful philosopher.
We hope only like you, Professor.